here today to talk about World Suicide Prevention Day, which has been going since 2003, which is like, I think you like me probably have noticed there's been a growing momentum in the last few years, and it's essentially a worldwide commitment to addressing suicide as one of the leading issues around public health, one of the biggest risk factors that we have to life. And it's essentially everybody across the world coming together to say we care and we want to do something to help people keep themselves alive. So many local authorities within the UK and public health sectors have got suicide strategy prevention things in place. Blackburn and Darwen certainly has done for quite a while now. And we look at all the different things that the community and the council and health and the police and everybody can do, because that is the solution when we all come together. Suicide doesn't just belong to the professional kind of sector, if you will. It's everybody's business, and we all have a massive part to play in that. We've been taught in our communities, I believe, not to talk about death, not to talk about suicide in particular. There's still a huge myth out there that says that if we talk about suicide to somebody, or we ask somebody if they're thinking of killing themselves, then that's going to put the thought in the red. There is no evidence for this whatsoever, none. The person's either thinking about it or they're not. Just by asking the question in a caring, empathic way, you can help signpost that person. You can sit with them and listen for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, and signpost them to help, even if that's emergency services. And that's a beautiful thing to do for each other, I think. We know that suicide has a lot of stigma around it. We know that we've a long way to go. But we can do this. Every death by suicide is preventable, I believe. What we need to do, though, is try and get to those conversations with people as soon as possible. It doesn't come from nowhere, do you know what I mean? People have thoughts around suicide, and those thoughts grow, and then can be a behaviour, and sometimes that behaviour ends in life, which is great, but it's still behaviour with harm, isn't it? You know, and we don't want anybody to be in unnecessary pain, if you will. And sometimes that behaviour can end in death. So when we look at the recent figures that have come out just recently, the ONS figures around suicide, we've seen that there's 5,691 deaths by suicide in 2019. Now, some of those deaths will belong to 2018 because of how long it takes to get the data. And we also know that it's probably far more people that we've lost to suicide than that 5,691, sorry. I haven't memorised that quite yet. One death by suicide is one too many, isn't it, really? Having one person who's even thinking about suicide is one person too many. And suicide comes from a complex, different backstory, if you will, for every one of us. We know that there's certain things that can increase the risk, things like poverty, homelessness, unemployment, relationship breakdown, bereavement, guilt is a big one as well. And the pandemic has that increased risk for some people. Feeling alone, being alone, not having great connections with other human beings can increase the risk factors, debt, etc. All those things can increase the risk for some people, but everybody's journey is different. What we know is the majority of people who are thinking about suicide quite often are doing their best to tell us, other people, that they're struggling. I'm not saying that they're walking around with a banner above their heads that's saying, I'm going to kill myself, although some people will say that, and we have to take that seriously. Most people will try and send out other sorts of signals to let us know that they're struggling. They might say things like, I just don't want to be here anymore, or I can't carry on, I've had enough. Their behaviours might change, their appearance might change. Those sort of things are what we need to pick up on early, if you will. And say, I've noticed that. Have those conversations. Ask the question. We've been taught a lot of the time incorrectly many things around suicide. Things like, don't ask about suicide, because if you do, you put the thought in somebody's head. There's absolutely no evidence for this whatsoever. There's a huge amount of evidence that says if you ask about suicide, then that person will probably open up, and is very life preserving for millions of people. So a lot of the time it's about confidence, about knowing that we have the skills as caring human beings to sit with that person and to be there and to listen to their pain. It's not therapy, it's not counselling, it's still really powerful. And then to signpost that person, even if that's to emergency services, that's still a wonderful thing to do for each other. Suicide's complex, but we are complex as human beings, and prevention is really, really, really about care. It's about empathy. It's about conversations and about helping people to stop feeling like there's no other alternative to their stuff that's going on that's taking them to that place than death. Because there's always loads of other solutions. But quite often people who are thinking about that can't see that. And that's where us showing that they matter is a huge thing. Us referring to other services is massively important. So we know that there's lots of services out there that can support people who are thinking about suicide. Organisations like the Samaritans, which is 116 123. And you've also got organisations like Mind. There's the National Health Service, so our GPs, the sort of front line of referring on to the specialists, etc. And there's many other organisations as well, which you can find out on your local council's website, on Blackburn with Darwin's Hub, all sorts of things. Or you can drop me a message or a line or Realign Futures email address, etc. And please do that. If you're feeling vulnerable, then please talk about it. Talk to somebody who you know cares about you or you care about, or phone the Samaritans. Reach out, because the only way that we're going to solve the huge issue that is suicide is together. We all make a massive difference. Confidence is really important, which is why I personally, I've kind of focused a lot of my life on training and helping to help people have that confidence to have a little conversation with somebody essentially that can help save somebody else. And I can't tell you how fulfilling that is for me as a human being to receive emails and messages off people who I've worked with maybe years ago who came on one of the awareness courses and have helped somebody through that. It's an amazing thing, and I'm really privileged to be a tiny part of that. Every life matters, and yours does. So please try and raise awareness however you can. Keep yourself safe, and honestly, if you're struggling in any way, shape or form, and you're having thoughts around suicide, please reach out, because you do matter and we need you. Thank you.